Welcome to the Everyday Miracles podcast, where real life stories of hope and inspiration are shared. Every day, miracles are happening all around us, yet we rarely hear anything about them. Why is that? I'm Julie Hedenborg, and I've committed my time and energy to bring these stories to you, including some of my own personal experiences. My hope is that you'll be impacted the same way that I was. Join me in my journey to inspire change in a world that so desperately needs it. Hey, welcome back to Everyday Miracles. This is Julie Hedenborg, your host, and today I have a wonderful guest. We're going to share a miracle about being evacuated out of a hostile situation today. It's absolutely amazing. This is Dr. Kaylah Holland, and she lives here in Charlotte. And Kaylah, if you want to share a little bit about where you were, why you were there, we can just kind of start with that.
Sure. So I think for me, it all began about 3 years ago. My cousin, who was then 17, called one day and said, "Hey, do you want to go on a mission trip with me?" And I thought, well, that's great. I'd love to do that. And so I said, sure, please tell me. We're going somewhere really fun. And she said, Haiti, I want to go to Haiti. And my reaction was, oh, like, okay, I guess, yeah, sure, let's do that. So we did. We went that summer, and we went with a local group called Blessed Back Worldwide. They're a medical group that goes to Haiti and Nicaragua here in Charlotte. And just my life was totally transformed by that week there in Haiti. I had been on mission trips similar to that in other countries numerous times, but something there in that country just really stirred my heart. And so I came home that summer, and along the same time, I had been accepted into a Google Innovator program. And so I was whisked off to an Innovator Academy, and I was learning all about design thinking and how to really solve real world problems. And so the Lord just kind of meshed those into my life. And I was working at a school here in Charlotte called Charlotte Christian School. And I sat down with the head of school and said, I really feel like we have to do something. Like, there are great people in Haiti, and there's just so much going on. I really feel like we are here in a moment to do something, to make a difference. And he was wonderful and really shared my heart and my passion and reached out to donors. And we began taking teachers and eventually students to Haiti. We would go twice a year. We led professional development programs, and the kids went and did like kids camp activities and things like that. It was wonderful. But after a couple of years of that, I really felt like we needed a next step. And the Lord was really, I went last summer, and the Lord was really moving in my life that this was where I was meant to be. And this was the path that he had for me. And I kind of said, no, I don't think so. I think you're a little confused there because, I'm a very girly girl. I don't like to sweat. I don't like to be hot. I don't like to do a lot of things that would be a daily norm in Haiti. But I took a group of students that January, and I had been kind of praying through it and anxious about it and all of that. And when I landed in country that January, it was really like this just total fountain of peace had come over me. And I knew this was what the Lord wanted me to do. So I went back, I came back to Charlotte, and I resigned my position at the school, which I loved. And I started a nonprofit, and I moved to Haiti in August of this year. And it was the coolest journey. The Lord really provided these just daily encouragements that I was on the right path, or in a moment where I might be doubting the path, or what have I done? He would send someone my way to donate money or say they really believed in me or in the cause. And so I started the nonprofit called Go Teach Be Love. And it's been really an amazing journey. I call it my accidental journey because I think I told you, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago if I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you. But that is often how the Lord does things. So this is my accidental journey. And I moved to Haiti full-time in August of this past year, and have really been on a faith journey since then.
amazing. And if you can tell people a little bit about what you do in your organization, because it's amazing,
Okay.
like equipping them and.
Yes. So the mission of Go Teach Be Love is that it's a for-purpose nonprofit organization empowering educators in under-resourced areas to foster innovative and sustainable educational environments. And I chose all of those words very specifically.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, because I really love, I'm very passionate about empowering educators. Even in the life I had before this, working in K-12 education, I've always been passionate about allowing and helping teachers to be superstars in their classrooms and just helping them have that aha moment, or just coming alongside them on a difficult path in their own lives. And that's just been a passion of mine. So empowering educators is really the goal. So I provide professional development, I provide instructional coaching, and really just doing small group or large group and especially one-on-one trainings with teachers, because teachers in under-resourced areas, a lot of organizations do a lot of great things. They come and they build schools, and they come and they provide resources, and they do, those are wonderful things. But there aren't many people who train the teachers who are going to be there day in and day out with these kids. And for Haiti specifically, from my research, only 20% of educators have ever received any professional development at all. Wow. Which means they've never been taught how to manage a classroom, how to create a lesson plan effectively, or even, more important things like how to engage students in the learning and how to differentiate learning for students who struggle. So that's really my passion. So I kind of come in and just fill gaps and help problem solve, and really just get to help teachers be superstars in their classrooms.
That's so needed. You're going to change the world. And I get to interview you right now. Okay. Well, I know a little bit about Haiti. I don't know a lot about Haiti. I know voodoo is the predominant religion, I believe. And I know there's been some hostile activity. So you get there in August. So tell us a little bit about how things started to change and become dangerous for you.
Okay, so Haiti, if you're familiar with the country, really kind of is on a roller coaster of political unrest. That's kind of like how I like to describe it. So there are moments of just true civil unrest happening, and protest and manifestations and all of these things. And then there are moments of peace and calm. And if you go back and forth between the States and Haiti or wherever, you're used to that ebb and flow of what's going on. So there's been a lot of that in the last couple of years in participating and traveling back and forth to Haiti. When I went in August, it was kind of on a calm strand of the roller coaster, I guess, if you will. And I mean, it was okay. We did a lot of work before the school opened. School opened in September. I was able to train some teachers. I led an in-service training for them at the school where I was working, or the organization, I guess, where I was working. And then around September, it started with a fuel shortage. And that's a big deal. For Americans, we might think fuel is only for vehicles to get us to and fro, right? But there might be some other transportation method or something like that. But in Haiti, fuel runs everything from generators to transportation. A lot of them, they don't own their own vehicle. So the transportation is a tap-tap, which is a taxi, or a moto, which is a motorcycle taxi. And without the ability to use those transportation methods, they can't get from village to village to get from like their village to their job, or from Port-au-Prince back to their village with the goods they're going to sell at the market. So having a fuel shortage, it very quickly turns into a crisis. And that's kind of where we were at the beginning of September. There was a fuel tanker that comes, all the fuel is imported into the country. And for some reason, you hear a lot of rumors about why it happened, but you never know exactly what's the truth in Haiti. And for some reason, it wasn't paid for. And so the tanker eventually left. And some of the people were saying it's because the hurricane slowed the tanker down. They didn't want to pay for it because it was late. And some were saying the government couldn't afford it. And there were all types of reasons, and we will never know the real one. But because generators power everything, from hospitals to schools to our own personal, living places. It becomes a real crisis very quickly. And so there's also a lot of kind of some shady things going on. So the man who owns the gas station, when he does get gas, he might only sell it to his friends or his family. So then there's street gas, where you might buy it on the street and the price skyrockets and all of those things. So it started kind of slowly, and then it built until it was a real crisis. And then the country itself right now is not, they don't like their current president. And that's a big part of the unrest that has taken so long. So it started with the fuel crisis, and then it slowly became this, we need a change, right? I think the president of Haiti is elected on a lot of promise of jobs and free education and more access to electricity and food and water. I mean, all the basic necessities. And when they don't come through with those things, which is quite difficult to do, the people are frustrated. And in my experience, when Haitians are frustrated, they protest. And protesting means sometimes they're out in the street and their faces are covered and they have these big guns and they're stopping all the cars that come by. A lot of times they block the road with something. So it's either tires and they're all on fire, or like brush, like things from a tree or something, and it's all on fire. While I was there's kind of one road in and out of the country on the southern tip where I was, and it was blocked like every 100 feet by something, and so it's basically impassable. It was impassable for weeks, and that's a big deal. It wasn't such a big deal for me. I was going from my place of living to the school and back, every day. So our little village was kind of apart from all of that for a long time, which is great because we felt pretty safe. But that road was impassable. And so they would, have a bunch of rocks blocking the road, or sometimes they even brought like a shipping container and blocked the road. And when I say road, I wouldn't think of like a 485 intersection, highway. It's literally like a one car at a time road. That's the only way in and out of the southern part of the country. And I know there are similar ways on the northern and other parts, because Port-au-Prince is the hub of the country. Everything kind of takes place there, the airport's there and all of that. And like in the city where I live, we have a market on every Saturday, and people would go to Port-au-Prince and they'd buy the goods and they'd come back to where we were, and then we could buy them from them. So without fuel for the vehicles and without a way to get there because the road is impassable, well, then you can't have food in our area, or, people aren't making money, which means a lot of people weren't eating. And so it really creates
like a desperate situation.
Yes.
So people are blocking the roads to siphon your fuel and take your goods. Is your life at stake?
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. They, there are lots of stories, and they'll pull you out of the car and, rob everyone, or hold you at gunpoint, or take the tires off your car. I mean, just, all kinds of just,
they're desperate.
Just desperate. Yeah. And they're being paid to do that by the, political opposition powers, or at least that's what's, been told to me. And it's just a really sad situation, because it makes you understand, like, these are people and they're hurting their own people just so they can have money to provide for their family. Like, that's how truly desperate they are. And it's just a really sad, sad situation. And because of that, they started kind of threatening the schools, and so a lot of the schools kind of slowly began closing in Haiti, and the school where I was working closed. And so then and that's kind of the big miracle, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But, it's just really sad that it affects so many different aspects, of the country, but especially the children. It affects the children, and that's just sad.
So the peak of all of this, when you felt the most unsafe, lead us into that part.
So I actually was very privileged. I really felt safe most of the time. The organization that I was with really did a fantastic job of really keeping me away from just the real main, kind of bad aspects of what was going on. So I really did feel safe most of the time. There were a couple of instances where, the protesting kind of made it into our city where we lived. And that means that like one day we were at school and we could see like smoke starting to rise, and someone had taken tires and crossed the bridge. There's a bridge right before we get into our city. And so if you kind of, the only way to get into the city is by that bridge, and that's where they kind of block it, so to speak. And we were right down from the school, and they were blocking it and protesting, and all this stuff happening. And so we shut school down for that day. But it's really interesting because like being an American there is different than maybe being a Haitian there, because the administrators came and said, we're closing school for the day and we're going to send all the kids home. And I'm like, no, it's dangerous. We can't send the children out into this. And they said, oh, they're not going to hurt Haitian children, but you have to stay. We need you to stay until everything calms down and they leave, because I'm American. So I did. I stayed at the school for a very long time that day. And it was just a very, long time to sit and think. But even then I was truly safe because I'm in this area. But then things kind of happened really quickly. So there were a couple of protests in the city itself, kind of starting with that one. And then one night there was this kind of big gun battle, whatever. It wasn't really, we could hear it from where we were, and it's just this moment of like, I think, this is really starting to become very real for a lot of us there. And then the next day they called and said they were closing the school, and they wanted me to leave. They wanted me to get out of the country. But then the question is how, right?
Yeah, the barricades.
How, right? That road has been impassable for weeks. I mean, nobody in or out. Missionaries there had been canceling teams. I mean, it was really, it was just a really bad situation. And I felt very blessed to feel as safe as I did for as long as I did. I was very blessed and thankful for that. But all of that kind of happening was really quick. And then they called and they said, we need you to get out. And the big question is how, because it's impassable. And so the only way is by car through all of that. And so there was just a lot of nerves and anxiety about that, of when to go and is it safe to go. And, there was a lot of stories going around about how it really was difficult, and how there were a lot of, robberies and just terrible things happening to people along that road. So I think it really kind of started to feel like, okay, something's going on, but Haiti is a difficult place to live. I think someone told me as a missionary, it's one of the most difficult places to live. And it's just because, we have such an American privilege, right? We are blessed here in America to have access to so much. And if something goes wrong, you just go out and buy another one, or you have so much access to help you problem solve. And in Haiti, it really isn't like that. If you don't have something, it may be weeks before you have the chance to go to Port-au-Prince, and maybe they'll have it, but they're probably not. It's not like you can order on Amazon and it'll be here in 2 days,
or today.
Right. Americans, we just have such a privilege of living in the country that we do. And so there, when, the fuel shortage was really a big deal, because the generators weren't functioning, because it's just expensive.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a kind of a small little miracle. It was the Lord just providing things. I felt very blessed by that, because the place where I lived had a big generator and a little generator, and some days we'd run the big one and some days we'd run the little one, and it just depends on, what kind of gas, because one was diesel and one wasn't, what kind of gas they could find. And I really think this poor man probably walked up and down so long every day just trying to find gas to run our generators. And they had solar power panels, and it just really I wasn't sure, like, why weren't they working well, and what was the problem. And we figured out with their help that they're just old, right? The batteries are old. And I said, okay, well, we need new batteries. Like, the American in me well, how
Yeah.
do we make that happen? Let's do that. And they're just looking at me like, okay, you're a little crazy. But when I'm on my phone on a Sunday and I'm just scrolling through kind of like social media, trying to keep up with family and maybe not feel so isolated for a moment. And somebody was selling batteries on Facebook on like a marketplace for Haiti kind of thing on some of the groups that we had. I'm not kidding. And
Wow.
we were able to buy those batteries and put them in, and then we ran on 24/7 solar power.
Wow.
After that. It was truly unreal. And it had been a little rough before then, but then it was like, okay, I think I can be okay. As silly as that sounds, but having access to power means you have a refrigerator and a freezer, and not even that, but Wi-Fi and an ability to charge your phone so you can connect to people and you can connect home. And it may sound so simple, and maybe I probably sound very privileged, but the ability to connect to my family was huge.
Yeah.
Because there were moments where I felt so alone because, I look different from everyone. I don't speak their language, even though I tried so hard. And when I went there, I lost a lot of independence. So, I was living with people that I really didn't know well. And I couldn't walk anywhere by myself. I couldn't speak the language without someone helping me. So it's like I'd lost my voice. I'd lost my independence. I'd lost my ability to just, I want to go and say hi to that person. And I couldn't. And so just the little things, made a big difference.
Yeah.
Made a big difference there.
Well, and the generator, I want to point out too, that I take for granted, being able to boil water and clean your food, because you did get typhoid at one point. It's a bacterial infection that you can get, and that's another episode. But yeah, so that's stuff that we don't even think about here,
right.
you know? And so, yeah, it really makes you realize. Now I want to get to the part where you had a text that came in, and if you could talk about where your mind was at that point, what your state of security was like, and what it was like to get that.
So that it's an interesting place for me because a lot of things had happened right before then, like the protesting in the city and the gunfight and just things like that, and it was just all kind of unsure, right? Like I've never lived in an environment like that. I don't know what to expect, and I felt like I had been struggling so much, and not just mainly just mentally and emotionally, right? Because I felt like I had tried, I really, really tried, and I kept just hitting obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, like having typhoid, and the fuel crisis meant like sometimes we didn't have gas in the car and we had to walk there and back, and it is really hot in Haiti, if you didn't know that.
So, yeah, I've heard that.
Like just getting used to sweating all the time, and just being used to not being here with my family, and just all the things that I was trying to get used to being around. And it was like I would try to overcome one obstacle and maybe would, with the Lord's help, and then boom, there's another one. And then trying to plug into the school, and I'm really not sure the teachers understood why I was there, and because I couldn't speak their language, it just added another layer of complexity to kind of what was going on. It was just unreal, and I felt like I was finally making progress, like it was finally showing a little bit of success, and then I got sick and found out it was typhoid, and just all these things, like something I never thought in my life I would hear from a doctor, and just going through that process, and very thankful to doctors from Blessed Back who were willing to read my lab reports and things like that, and just made me feel a little bit better, because I don't know how to read a lab report, and trying to read it in a different language is like, okay, this is crazy. So I felt like I really had just tried so hard, and I really didn't feel like it had been successful, only to wake up on a Monday and they say, maybe don't come to school today. And then by noon they'd called me and said, we're going to cancel school. Schools all across Haiti were being canceled. and we want you to evacuate. And I had such mixed feelings because I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to quit something when it's hard. And so I felt like I just really was trying to stick it out. This is what the Lord wanted me to do. He's supposed to equip the called, but I didn't really feel like I was being equipped at all.
Yeah.
You know, all those things. And but then on the other side, if I were really being honest, I felt a little relieved. Like I can go home and it's not my decision.
Yeah, because it was hard.
It was hard.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I was just overwhelmed with all this mixture of feelings of being maybe a little thankful and a little sad and just all the things, and not knowing how I'm going to get out in the first place. Right. That was a big concern. And my phone rings, and it was a text message from a friend, and we don't talk a lot. He had no idea what was going on in my life at the moment. And it just said, I don't know why you need to hear this, but I feel like God's telling me to tell you, wherever you set your feet, he has a plan for you. Which was just huge. And he went on to say all these verses from about Moses and just how the Lord parted the Red Sea and he walked through on dry land, and truly wherever the Lord sets your feet, he has a plan for you. And I realized, like, my feet were going home, and that was okay. You know, the Lord has a plan, and I just have to walk in it. And so when you think about the fact I call this an accidental journey, like, that's part of it. This has been such a huge faith journey for me. Yeah. And part of it really is a knowing that wherever I am, or whatever obstacle comes, or whatever path I'm supposed to be on, if the Lord has set my feet there, then he has a plan for me there. And that was just a huge, huge moment of relief. So then I'm like an Uber planner, right? And I didn't know how I was being taken out of the country. So I had like a big bag packed if it was going to be my car, and like a little bag, because I just didn't know. And they called the next day and they said, you've got 30 minutes. Somebody will be there in a car to get you. And so I called my family and like, okay, it's happening. And so, I mean, my mom set this like prayer chain happening all over Charlotte here, which was just incredible. And I was really nervous because this road that I'm supposed to be traveling on has been impassable for weeks, and it had just been getting increasingly worse. And I really honestly felt like I just didn't know what was going to happen. And so we got in the car and I asked the driver, I said, is this safe? And he said, no, but here we go. It's like, okay, this is great. Like, we don't have to. It was like, we don't have to. There's got to be another way. And he said, no, we'll just try. We'll try to get to Port-au-Prince. And it's normally like a 2.5, 3 hour drive on this road. And I started trying, like, my mind was in such a state. I couldn't even remember Psalm 23. Like, I'm trying to quote verses and I couldn't even remember them because I was just in such this state of like, okay, I just need to sit and like just be in this. And it was truly like I was in the Red Sea walking through on dry land. Like, there was not a single protester. There was not a single, place where we stopped our vehicle. There were maybe 5 or 6 barricades, but there was a clear path between whatever it was on the road. I mean, it truly felt like there were just all of this angel army surrounding the car. And like, here we go. We made it to Port-au-Prince in like 45 minutes, which was unheard of. And then we kind of zigzagged around the city, and they dropped me at a hotel. And then I really did feel like, oh my gosh, Lord, this is amazing. Like, just thank you so much for this. But, there's still so much to the process of getting home. And I landed in Charlotte the next night. Like, there'd been a whole day of just crazy travel and just being by myself. Like, I was truly by myself for the first time. They dropped me at the hotel and they kind of waved like, love you, bye. And like, okay, I am going to be here in the city where all of this crazy stuff is happening by myself. So kind of just barricaded myself in. But just the Lord has been miraculous in my life in so many ways in that one story, because another friend of mine had been so generous and donated frequent flyer miles for my first round trip flight. Well, that was my flight coming home, and I called the airlines to change it. I made it to the city, so I'm like, okay, I gotta get a flight. and they wouldn't talk to me because it wasn't my flyer miles. So my poor friend, I had to call her and say, I need you to get me a flight like right now. I need one like right now. And she was on the phone with them for a couple of hours just to try to change everything. And she's just so generous and grateful to do that. And then the next day, I mean, it's a general travel day, but the Lord just provided the way. It was honestly like I was walking through on dry land every time, because even in the Miami International Airport, where there's always a ton of people, you know, there was no one. There was no one at my kiosk. There was no one at the TSA line. I mean, it was just unreal. I'm normally like running through the Miami airport to make my connection. I've traveled back and forth to Haiti so many times, and Miami's always like, just run, just get through and get to your gate. You know, there's no time for anything. And this time, like, I had plenty of time, and I had like 45 minutes, and I had food sitting at the gate, and I'm just crying and eating my food. I'm sure like people in the terminal are thinking this woman is crazy, but it was just also overwhelming. And just knowing that, like, I was in the US, which once you put feet in the US, you just kind of feel, okay, like I'm going to be okay, you know? And then I landed in Charlotte at 8:00, and it's been an interesting journey since then. You know, the schools in Haiti are just now starting to reopen, some of them, not all of them.
And that's been how many months?
That's been 2 months. Yeah, 2 months. And so I think the school where I work specifically, they're planning on opening in January. But it's just a pensive wait and see, right? Like, we're not sure what's going to happen. But that's the Lord has just shown himself in so many ways in my life.
Oh, it's amazing the way he called you to this accidental journey, and what you're doing, equipping and empowering these educators. Is one thing to come in and, you know, I guess the example would be, you know, teach a man how to fish, you know, but it's one thing to go and provide resources within a certain limit, but then to equip people, you're changing the world. You know,
well, the key is sustainability.
Yeah.
Right? There are moments where you need to feed people.
Yeah.
Right. There are those moments where they need that, but most of the time you really need to teach them how to fish, right? You can't just feed them. They have to learn. Otherwise, when you're gone, they're not going to know what to do. Yeah. And they become dependent on people coming in and helping them. Yeah. And instead, we really do need to just teach them what to do. And I truly believe education can break the poverty cycle. Yeah. I believe that with everything I have. And I think the people to do that are the national teachers, the teachers who are there, who know their culture, who know their kids. They've been their teacher for their whole life. Wow. Those are the people that make the real difference. Yeah. They just need a little help. Yeah.
Well, I am just honored to have you on my podcast. I love what you're doing, and you're risking your life to do it. Like, I could tear up right here with you talking about coming back home. I can't even imagine what it was like to get on that airplane and feel yourself in the air. Like, oh my gosh, I've made it. I didn't, you know, I survived, you know? And I think it's great that that God worked through your friend to bring you that message. You know, did you look at your phone on that journey and just think, oh my gosh, I feel like Moses, like, and even the pastor said something last week about, the parting of the Red Sea. Said, you know, they weren't in there like taking their time going through, they were running, you know, they're like, holy cow, we're going to run. Absolutely. So it's, you know, it's understandable to have fear, but, to see what you've come through is amazing. I want to let the people know again, the name of your organization. If there's someone that has heard this and maybe they want to get involved, maybe they're in education too, and they feel it on their heart that they want to get involved somehow or even donate. I'm going to put the links on there, but if you could just say it one more time.
So the name of my nonprofit is Go Teach Be Love. And you can find that online at goteachbelove.org. Okay. Or we're at Go Teach Be Love on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter.
Awesome. And I think you mentioned you might be going to different places other than Haiti even right now.
Yeah. So since I've been here, the Lord's just been working miracles still, because wherever he sets my feet, right, he has a plan. Yeah. And we're in discussions right now with maybe starting to work in another country, in Kenya. It's not official, but we're working on getting connections there and getting approval. You know, every country runs things in a different way. So yeah, that could be a possibility for Go Teach Be Love in 2020. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. I'm just honored. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And again, if you are in a scary situation, just remember to pray and trust God, and that He will not put you in a place where He cannot protect you and provide. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening. I know I've been completely inspired today and educated to some extent, because I didn't know a lot about that, but it's just phenomenal. So God bless you, and thank you for listening.